No flag planting necessary, no tough guy fights afterwards, no tunnel shenanigans necessary. Ohio State only wanted to show it was the better team for those 60 minutes in the big house, and it left no doubt that it was. The routine works, Zach Boren. Welcome to a Boren Blitz. It is a Monday after the game. The Buckeyes win 27-9. Really just a beatdown in the big house, and I know you enjoyed every second of it.
Man, does it feel good. It feels so good. This has been a long time coming. Ohio State has been wanting to make a statement in this game, and they did it on Saturday in Ann Arbor, and they did it exactly how they wanted to. They controlled the line of scrimmages. They made the big plays, suffocating defense, long drives on offense, everything that everyone has been saying for the last number of years that they have gotten out-schemed, outplayed. They did all of those things in those areas, and they made the biggest statement they've made in a very long time.
I think it's fascinating, Zach, because as we break this down, and Ohio State will want to move on quickly because now they're playing for a Big Ten championship and another goal on their list on Saturday against Indiana. But for these last 4 years, and two of them, I think we can strike from the record book. But even if we include them all, part of the conversation about Ryan Day was that he, was trying to prove something that he wasn't. That Ohio State wanted to only beat Michigan at its own game, and it was at its own detriment. This team, and you mentioned it last week with Mark Pantoni's roster building and the way that Ryan Day has built this coaching staff together and the way they approach the game, they are now capable of winning any kind of game. And if Michigan wanted to play in a phone booth, Ohio State was fine with that. They ran the football and they stopped the run outside of three hits that scored it out that Matt Patricia and Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs and all those guys were able to get corrected after that. If you had said 3-4 years ago, what would a Ryan Day team do in a snow globe in the big house if it was forced to be a low-scoring game? You say, ooh, boy, that really favors Michigan. And there was really no point, even when it was 6-0 on Saturday, where it felt like the Buckeyes weren't going to be able to adjust to what was happening and then pull away accordingly, which is exactly what happened.
You know what's so fascinating is the last couple of years, to your point, it almost felt like Ohio State was trying to force themselves to play to Michigan's game and beat them at Michigan's game, right? Whether it be toughness, running the football, any of those things. Saturday felt completely different from the standpoint of Ohio State had the game plan that they were going to go out and do what they do, right? They weren't going to force anything. They had a game plan that they've been doing all year long. And at the end of the day, guess what, Austin? They beat Michigan at their own game by being Ohio State and going out there and showing everyone who they really are. And so that was the fascinating thing to me, is I felt like this was actually an Ohio State game plan, an Ohio State looking team in this game. And you look at, the box score, you look at just time of possession, you look at all those things, and it's glaring how much Ohio State dominated.
Yeah. So you said about on the 30-yard line in the big house behind the Ohio State bench. When Michigan hits that first run on the opening play, when Julian Sand throws the interception on the ball intended to Jeremiah Smith on the first drive, what was the mindset then? Because I couldn't text you as frequently on Saturday because it was starting to snow and I didn't want you to break your phone out there.
Yeah. It was interesting with that first run by Jordan Marshall, because obviously I'm sitting in a sea of maize and blue people, right? And you could just feel them be like, oh, this is actually going to happen, right? It was and as those drives continued, and you saw the Ohio State defense come together and hold them to field goals, and then obviously on the Julian Sand interception, Ohio State's first possession, it's like, all right, you hold them to another field goal at 6-0. It's almost like I had a confidence come over me, and you could feel everyone, all the Michigan fans around, be like, oh, we really need to score touchdowns right there. Like, that was our moment. And when that didn't happen, you just knew Ohio State was going to come out swinging. It's kind of like, the teams that I played on at Ohio State, and it's a running joke now, but we used to love when people used to punch us right in the face to start, because now you're like, okay, listen, we know in our fight, you just threw a haymaker. Now it's our turn to throw punches. And that's what it felt like. It was a heavyweight battle. Michigan threw their punches. Ohio State, ducked them. And then Ohio State just came throwing haymakers after that. And from that point on, you could just see Ohio State start to take over the game little by little by little. And then so much of this game felt like 22, where, you looked at halftime, you're like, okay, Ohio State dominated this game, but in 22, they were barely winning. Yesterday, when it was, 17-9 or 17-6, whatever it was at halftime, it's kind of like, damn, Ohio State's going to come out and just blow the doors off them. Like this game isn't even close. And that's what I felt like that entire second half was. Hell, Ohio State held Michigan to negative rushing yards in the second half. I mean,
Crazy.
My God, that's insane.
Little bit of a change from the script from those previous 4 years when you're talking about those hits that were piling up and the way that Michigan would put the game away with its ground game. And that's we can look at like almost every area of this game, how Ohio State flipped it from what happened over the losing streak. But the most telling part to me was, as you mentioned, Ohio State comes back out for the third quarter, and they've got a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 2. What did we see the first time that this really switched back in 2021? Ohio State wants to run the ball. They were not able to get a first down, and things snowballed from them in that second half. This time, they get it on the ground. They convert another one. They wind up having later in the third quarter and into the fourth quarter a 12-minute drive, 20 plays, and they run it 16 times. That's the part where, we can say that was the Michigan blueprint during the winning streak, and that's probably true. Winning with toughness, great defense, running the football. That's applied to almost every version of the game that's ever been played. But what makes it different to me, Zach, they could still do that and get the short yardage runs, with one notable exception, of course, in the red zone, but we don't have to nitpick when you win the game. When you add on to that you can run the ball, that you have elite defense, you execute on special teams, and then you have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Ennis to throw to, good luck. I mean, that was the difference. They could run the football, and then they could still do the quote-unquote Ohio State things and beat you with finesse, because Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are better receivers than anyone in the country.
It's mind-blowing, Austin, and I don't know how opposing coaches and opposing defenses are able to plan for what they get against Ohio State. Because to your point, you're in a snow globe on Saturday. You have a 20-play drive, 12-minute long, and Ohio State ran it 16 times. But then you look, and everyone across the country, what's Ohio State's offense? Oh, Julian Sand and those wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
But then, it's crazy, because now if you're Indiana, now once you go into the college football playoff, Ohio State's like, hey, listen, you want to duke it out in a phone booth, and we need to eat up clock? Guess what? We can do it. Hey, do we need to turn this into a track meet and throw the ball 45 times all over the field? Guess what? We can do it. Here's the other thing. Moving forward, that's the last time Ohio State's going to be in a snow globe, right? Like moving forward, they're going to be in warm weather places or in domes. And guess what? It's going to be a track meet that we've seen Ohio State be super successful at. But that doesn't mean that, guess what? This running game can't put off explosive plays, and we saw some explosive runs on Saturday. And guess what? It's only going to get better and better, because last year, what happened? After the Michigan game, right, going to the college football playoff, you saw this Ohio State staff make some tweaks to that running game to really get explosive plays going. They're still going to do that, right? They're still going to make those tweaks and elevate this running game to even more than what it is now. And that's even scarier, especially when you package that with this Ohio State defense, Austin, that I don't know if I've ever seen a unit like this, maybe ever in all of college football.
It's crazy. I mean, they won the game on Saturday without giving up a touchdown. That's nuts all on its own. But you're adding that into a 12-game sample size where they have still not given up 100 points this season. They are, I believe, 44 points clear of everyone else in the country. The number 2 defense, which is Indiana, which they're going to play on Saturday night in Lucas Oil Stadium. what they've accomplished to this point is just almost impossible to comprehend. What we're seeing it week over week, it's not a fluke. And you can't do what they've done on accident, and you can't do it just because of well, they didn't play any really explosive offense or strength of schedule. Like teams that they played, it's not like Michigan was laying down. Once they got punched in the mouth, they just backed down, which is the same thing that happened to Washington, which I guess didn't really happen to Illinois, but they tacked on that season high total really late in that fourth quarter. But that's getting way into the weeds. I just think what they did yesterday, when all you can point to are 3 field goals and 3 runs that were explosive that Michigan got, which has been sort of the hallmark of that Wolverines offense all year. That's elite stuff that we're talking about. That's historical greatness that we're talking about, Zach.
I would love to know the stats, and I should have done it before coming on the show. If you took out those 3 explosive runs that Michigan had on Saturday, what their total yardage was, because their total yardage was 163 total yards. You remove those 3 explosive runs, it's mind-boggling, right? And
Yep.
from being there at the game and sitting where I was close to field level, you could just see Ohio State dominating the line of scrimmage. Like when I say the Silver Bullets were attacking, playing downhill, constantly putting pressure on that Michigan offense, like it I don't want to say it was a men amongst boys, but you could just see them overtaking the entire line of scrimmage. Like it's what, and we talked about last week, it's what Mark Pantoni and this Ohio State coaching staff has done. They said, hey, listen, for us to be successful, we have to be able to play in the trenches. That's not just against Michigan. That's against Oregon. That's against the big guys of the SEC. Against all of those teams, you have to be able to be great in the trenches. And you saw Ohio State dominate on both sides yesterday.
All right, so I did have the stat book in front of me, Zach. So those 3 explosive runs for Michigan accounted for 79 yards. They ran for 21 yards the rest of the game. That's just bonkers stuff.
Insane.
So, that was 21 carries for 21 yards when you take out the rest. Oh, that's easy math. I can put my phone down. I don't need the calculator for that. That's 1 yard per carry.
Think about that. And going into this game, all the talk was Ohio State hasn't faced a rushing attack like Michigan all year. That's what everyone was saying. The blueprint, how's Michigan won? They control the line of scrimmage, they rush the football. Everyone going into it. That defense of Ohio State, yeah, it's good, but they haven't faced a rushing attack like Michigan. You saw what this team did when they answered the challenge. And we've been saying for the last couple of weeks, Austin, guess what? This team has been salivating for a big-time matchup. They don't want to go out and play the Purdue, UCLAs of the world, right? They want to show everyone on a national stage how great they really are, and they showed their greatness on Saturday.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. I remember, thinking back to 2012, every year, every version of this Ohio State team that I have covered and been around does want to taste their own blood. They want to get punched in the mouth. And if you do it early, that's probably worse for you because that's the wake-up call. Ohio State plays so many games where they are 20, 25, 30-point favorites. And I know that this team is married to the process and will try and treat every opponent the same, but it's human nature. There is going to be complacency that will set in and I'm not saying that there would be any of that for Michigan, but it did serve as an immediate wake-up call. They're like, oh, we are actually in this one for real. Michigan isn't going to lay down for this one. Not that anyone would expect that, but it's just, everyone's got a plan, and then you get punched in the mouth. And I have seen Ohio State teams relish that opportunity. And as long as it's between the 60 minutes on the game clock, then they're going to fight their butts off to beat you after that. What irritated me the most were the punches that were before or after the whistle or the posturing after the game. And I really couldn't wait to get your thoughts and your perspective on the way the Wolverines acted before, during, and after the game. I mean, their most passionate defense of anything for the Block M didn't come until after the game when they wanted to keep a flag planting from going on. And Ryan Day was saying that they weren't going to do that anyway because they wanted to win with humility.
I mean, obviously being at the game, I didn't see so much of the pregame stuff, but the postgame, just circling around the block M tells you everything you need to know about that Michigan program. Like, if that's the thing that they are most worried about, because guess what? They know they've done that the last number of years, and that's their thing to hang their hat on, that they don't want it being done to them. Like, that's just petty. It's petty. It tells you exactly where that program is compared to where Ohio State's program is. It tells you that, guess what? At the end of the day, they're so worried about defending their block M over something that created a huge fight last year that they want to stay out on the field after getting completely dominated for Austin. They were out there for what, 15 minutes, at 15, 20 minutes after the clock hit zeros, for them to just defend a block M. Like, guys, get off the field. You got beat. Ohio State got off the field last year. Guess what? You want to plant the flag? Okay, whatever. For you to worry so much about that and not worry about the game itself and the way that you performed, it's just mind-boggling. And even for Sharon Moore to be standing out there for as long as he did, and then having to have a second discussion with Ryan about getting his players off the field, because the longer they're going to sit out there, the worse it's going to be. Like, come on. It's childish, Austin. I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, it just goes to tell you that Michigan deep down knows how petty their flag planting has been and how much in the wrong they've been the last couple of years, even though they don't want to come out and say it. And I think finally on Saturday, it was them admitting, like, hey, yeah, this is stupid. We just don't want it done to us.
Well, they had 60 minutes of game time before that to stop it from happening, but that's aside from the point. I was in the tunnel, which is the worst place to be in America. But so even after, some of the security were able, and Michigan staff were able to get them in the tunnel, there were 40 players that were standing at the bottom of it, like just trying to wait and start something even more after that. They finally had a couple teammates tell them, we have 364 days until we can try and do this again, like get in the locker room. But they were standing down there angling for another fight. Like, the fight was over. You can't accomplish anything at that. And I believe, as Michigan State can attest, it becomes not a penalty, but a felony if you start to fight in the tunnel after that. But it's disgusting. I was kind of embarrassed, honestly, for them to see what they were doing on Saturday. But that's aside the point. I felt the complete opposite for Ohio State when they came up the tunnel. Ryan Day with RJ, with his team, with his coaching staff. You and I have known him since he got to Ohio State, seeing the ups, downs, adversity. He did not. I knew he wasn't going to say anything crazy. There's a part of him that desperately wanted to. I'm sure of that with every fiber of my being. But then that would have deflected, I think, the attention away from his program, from his players that accomplished something that meant a lot to them. So I thought the way that Ohio State handled the postgame was pretty cool. But I know that it means something to you as well to see Ryan Day get this win, and especially the way he did it.
Well, I've always had so much respect for Ryan, and I love Ryan, and I think he is the best coach in all of college football. But it even spoke more highly of him the way he handled post-game media, the way he answered some questions, the amount of things that have been built up, whether it be with his family, whether it be what people in the industry have said about him, whether it be just this past week, Michigan players taking jabs at him about his culture and everything else. Like, there were so many things that I know have been weighing on Ryan, and that he could have easily just unloaded post game. And the way that he handled it and said, you want to know something? There's a lot of things I can say, but what I will say is, I'm happy for our players. I'm happy for the coaches. I'm happy for the program. We're gonna have dignity. We're gonna take this win the right way, and we're gonna get super excited for our matchup next weekend in Indy. Like, I had so much respect for him, but I even got more respect for the way the guy did that, because to me, I would have went off, right? Like, how many things that he could have said and just unleashed, like, that was his time to vent. He had the stage, rightfully so. I mean, he could have said whatever he wanted to say, and guess what? It's his moment. And
Yeah.
he took the high road, and I think that's all you need to hear. And there's probably a lot of people that are waking up this morning feeling pretty stupid about it. I'm sure there's a certain running back on Michigan who is waking up this morning feeling pretty stupid about his comments, right? There's so many people that he almost got the last laugh by not saying anything,
Yeah.
because they're just sitting there like, man, yeah, sometimes saying nothing is really winning the war.
Yeah, it says everything at times when you say nothing. So that, and I think he's also Ryan Day savvy enough to know, as I mentioned, if he had made a comment about Jim Harbaugh or Connor, I mean, those guys are gone, and it wouldn't have changed anything from the last 4 years. I don't know. It wouldn't have made him feel any better about what happened. It would have distracted from being in the moment and celebrating with his team. And also then all of the headlines after the game would have changed. If Ryan Day had for some reason turned into Lane Kiffin behind the microphone and or tweeted something out about winning the game or this, that, or the other thing, then that would have become the headline and not top ranked Ohio State, snaps losing streak,
Yep.
best team in the country, historic defense, all the other storylines that actually get into what happened in the game, which are more important to him. And that's the craziest thing. When you mentioned Jordan Marshall's comments last week and the difference in the culture, we just described all of that. The way that the teams handled winning and losing over just the last 2 years, polar opposites. I mean, which one of those would you rather be part of? Which one, if you're an Ohio State fan, are you proud of that it exists? Like, is anyone jealous of the way that the Wolverines act when they win or lose? No. The last 2 years, not just because of what happened afterwards with the national championship, but everything in the post game, I think reinforces that Ohio State is on the higher ground and is at the level that everyone would aspire to be.
Yeah, and it's funny because the way that what you just said about the culture of a program, how that translates to performance on the field. Isn't that just funny how that happens, right? You look at, yes, Michigan beat Ohio State last year, but look at the end of the year, right? Michigan's playing in the Gator Bowl or whatever it was against Alabama, and Ohio State's hoisting the national championship trophy, right? You look at this year, yeah, Michigan's won 9 games, but guess what? Where are the Buckeyes going to be at the end of the year, and where are the Wolverines going to be at the end of the year, right? There's a direct correlation with the way that you build up a program and the standard that you have within a program and the way that your players perform on the field. And I just, hats off to Ryan, man. I know for a fact, he could cherish this game for weeks upon weeks, but I think it even says something about him where he took the moment yesterday to say, hey, we're already turning the page and looking
Yeah.
at Indiana and what we have Saturday night, because guess what? It's going to be a great opportunity for us. None of these guys have been to Indy on this team. Our story's not being done written, right? It's just another chapter in the book, and we still have many pages to write. And so I think there's even more to say about Ryan and the way that he handled that and has already turned his attention to, his next opportunity.
Yep. But that first goal does mean a lot to Ohio State. It'll mean a lot, as you can attest, Zach, for Sonny Styles, Lorenzo Styles, Caden Curry, everyone on that roster 10, 20, 30 years from now, that they were able to get the streak over with, get Ohio State back on the right side of history from the Scarlet and Gray perspective. So let's put a bow on it with the Boren Blitz and give us a 3 and out. I have a feeling that you'll probably just take the entire roster and coaching staff when you win the rivalry game, but
God,
that's fine.
We've been doing this a long time together, haven't we? Yeah, there
We
are
have.
there are no 3 and outs. Everyone gets a Buckeye leaf, man. Offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, support staff, everyone who made that trip, all the fans at the big house. My God, dude, I looked around. There was so much scarlet in that stadium on Saturday. And I know there's pictures on social media, of really how much scarlet there was. It was crazy. So for the team to go out there and perform the way they did, for the game plan that the coaches put together, for the fans showing up and being loud and supporting the Bucks, the state of Ohio I mean, all of it. It was a phenomenal Saturday. It's a Saturday that people will remember for a long time because you just said it. It is the day that the streak was broken. It's the day that, guess what? Ohio State and Ryan Day can stop taking so much heat about not being able to beat Michigan. Now, and I know everyone thought Ohio State was an elite program, but now once they got this monkey off their back, they might be the most elite program in the country. And it might not even be by a small margin. It might be a large margin. And I'm super excited to see what this team's going to do this weekend against Kurt Signetti and that Indiana team. And like I said, man, and I know Ryan has said this to his team so many times, we're just writing our book, and our book is nowhere near the end. So I'm excited to see this journey. I'm excited to see what this team can do. They're riding a ton of confidence, man. And Buckeye fans, we need to cherish this moment for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And writing that story means that we also get to talk about more Boren blitzes next week after the Big Ten Championship, Ohio State and Indiana 1 versus 2. I mean, that's hard to process. I'm not even ready to think about that quite yet, but we will break it down all week on the Austin and Berm Show. We've got it kicked off right here with one more look back with former Ohio State captain Zach Boren talking about the game. Buckeyes win it 27-9. They are on to Indy, and we'll be back with Zach next week. Thanks so much for joining us on this Monday edition of the Beat. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you later.